And we are live. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I know it has been a while. Today, I am here with my friend Classy Liberal. How are you, Classy Liberal, today?
I'm fine, man.
I appreciate you coming on with me tonight. So, yeah, guys, like I said, know it's been a while since I've streamed or like made any videos. I've kind of been uninspired, haven't really been, nothing that's out there has really kind of made me want to make videos. To be honest, to be completely honest, there are some things that I have kept my eye on, but now I'm definitely here to, I want to be streaming more for you guys and eventually maybe create a podcast. I'm joined with my friend here, Classy Liberal, who has that same interest with me. So I want, we want to do some of these things like a little more often, and maybe have some topics, talk to some guests. I'm gonna try different things here on my channel to see what you guys enjoy. So today I was talking, or a couple days ago, or a couple weeks ago, I was talking with Mr. Classy Liberal here, and I just reached out to him because I noticed he started a podcast, and I thought it would be really cool if we can maybe collaborate and do some things together. Um, for some reason, he wanted to talk to me about abortion today, which I don't know. I don't really spend too much time or thinking about abortion. I mean, I do think about it. Don't get me wrong, but um, I have my opinion about it. I don't. It's something that I don't really even like talking about with people. But today he wanted to talk about that before we get into some current events later. So yeah, man, why'd you want to talk to me about abortion? Like, we're just two dudes. Like, how does that really affect us? To be honest.
Abortion's like one of those like big topics out there. I say it's probably the most controversial topic of all time. But at the same time,
You
do
think
sort
so?
of understand that like people do get bored to death about it. But like I personally I don't talk about it that much with people though, just
But
because
no, I didn't say. So real quick, I didn't say I was bored to death about it.
well some people are.
Okay. I don't want you to think that's how I feel though. It's definitely an important topic, and I'll talk about it. I enjoy talking about it, but I don't enjoy talking about it, but it's something that I do have, an opinion on. As far as it being the most controversial of all time, yeah, what's up there? I think like Islam is that more controversial, or transgenderism?
Well, I see. We got any sort of racial, religion issues. Obviously, is always going to be controversial. But I think like abortion is just those things that people are always under throats, and I'm never like I rarely talk about it just because it's so hard to talk about like honestly with people. You know, uh,
So what's your background with it? Like, so all right, so yeah, it's just something cool. Yeah, interesting. You want to talk to me about?
yeah.
Yeah, just, do you want to start, or like, what do you think? Or,
So when I first started to get interested in politics and stuff like that, I wasn't really interested in economics. Now I am, and I hope to start making more videos on that because that's really what I'm interested in now. But I started to get interested in the social issues, and of course, abortion was one of them. And it's one of those issues where I surprisingly, after all these years of like just like thinking about it, I haven't really changed my mind on it. Like I've changed my mind on, I don't know, maybe certain things about, I don't know, just like maybe just certain other things like I don't know that I think I used to be progressive. I think I'm more sort of centrist or maybe even libertarian. And but
but forgetting
through
forgetting about the labels, forgetting about
sure,
politics.
sure, forgetting
I don't
about
even, I don't
libs.
even think this is a. I don't even know if it's political. Like, what does that mean if it's like political? Is like is
Well, I think it's political because, like, it has to do with like a lot of like legislation and stuff like that. I think like recently Iowa just put some restrictions on abortion, and of course a lot of people have a lot to say about that. So
okay.
yeah, like it may not affect me directly, but it definitely affects other people. So and it just it comes down to like, oh, what are your values? Like what do you believe in? What do you think is the role of government? And are up to what extent do you follow them? That sort
Sure,
of stuff.
sure. So I guess what is the role of government? I personally think the government, shouldn't have, you know, I want less government interference as much as possible. That's kind of my. I've always said that in my videos. I don't really use the like label libertarian, but I just believe that, when it comes to regulations, when it comes to many things, I ultimately believe that the less government intervention, the better for the people, because The more the government tries to get involved, it creates bureaucracies, it creates, systems that have to be kept in place. And if, something's put up to solve a problem, and then maybe there wasn't a problem to solve, or maybe that wasn't the way to solve it, and you're just creating now, a legislative body that, gets an annual salary, and they got to have excuses to want to meet together every, week or whatever, and whatever they do. And it just creates like just kinks in the system. So how would that relate to abortion?
Yeah, exactly. So, what I think the role of government is, I think it's almost the same as you, very similar though, is that government should be small, but I would go further and say that government's role is not to legislate morality, that government's like sole purpose is just to protect our rights. So when we think of rights, we're not thinking of like, oh, is this moral or is this, good or bad? No, we're thinking like, does this infringe on your right and your individual rights? So, for example, rape is immoral, and I hope you would agree with me. But it's not. The reason why there's a law against it is not because it's immoral or whatever. It's immoral. It's illegal because it's an infringement on your right to have autonomy over your body. It's nothing to do with morality. And I would apply that same principle to abortion. I am for right to an abortion, a woman's right to choose, or you could say that's pro-choice, but whatever. If you want to put that label on me, that's fine. But whatever, I just say that yeah, I guess I'm for women's right to choose. And I would say that like that's something that the government should protect, the woman's right to choose. And I think that's that whether you think abortion is wrong or whether it's right, whatever, it's irrelevant because the government's role is not to legislate morality, but just to protect people's rights. That's what I would say.
Yeah, well, some people will say that morality just is, right. So someone who's a serial killer and enjoys killing people, he can't turn around and say, this is unfair. This is the government is trying to legislate morality. I mean, would you agree?
Yeah.
Right. So it really just comes down to like we have, a morality is something I guess pretty touchy in this modern day because you might say like, oh, this has nothing to do with morality, or and we can't really dictate morality, and it has to do with a woman's right to choose, right? And I would say that I'm pro-choice in a lot of ways as well. I mean, I believe that a woman should be able to choose whatever she wants, except, if she has an unwanted pregnancy, there's so many different options out there. Before obviously a pregnancy, there's so many contraceptives, birth control. I mean, we live in the era of birth control, right? You just think about how old is birth control? Birth control is like what came out in the like 50s, 60s, right?
Yeah, around that time.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly when. It doesn't really matter, but we are when it comes to like humans, like sexuality and how we, sexual relationships and stuff, it's changed so much and it's been kind of reframed. And, it's obviously affected by our modern day opinions, like, how we think about things. And that's why like men's roles have changed over time and women's roles have changed over time. I would argue for the worst. Some people might argue for the better. But that's just my opinion. So, but when it comes to abortion, you say that, I guess we have to really decide like what is moral. Like, so if you believe in abortion, so you believe there should be a law out there. Like, what is the right cutoff time then for a woman to have an abortion?
I would say the cutoff time would be when that child is capable of being an individual, capable of essentially like living on its own. Because when it's a fetus, though, it needs life support from the mother, right? So it's not an individual yet. It's just an extension of the woman's body. That's what I would say.
Well, I mean, it's an individual, like, I would say it's an individual at the moment of
Wait, sorry. I didn't say the cutoff point. I would say 30 weeks
dirty waste.
on average.
Okay. So, I thought you said dirty waste. I was like, what? I was trying to. You said 30 weeks.
30 weeks, yes.
So how many months is that?
Let's see. That's almost 9 months.
Almost.
Like 8 months and something.
Wow. So you believe up until 8 months, like a woman should be able to have an abortion because you said that uh, because up until that point that she's out of the body, it's not an individual, but it's an extension of the woman's body. Correct or incorrect?
Yeah, yeah. I may not think it's right to abort the fetus that late, but I think that around that time, that's not up for government to decide. That's up for the woman to decide whether or not they would.
At that point, though, like, what difference does it make if, like, do you believe in infanticide?
Infanticide, like killing your child young.
Yeah, I mean, there's some cultures that, yeah, they believe in. I mean, I don't think any today, but yeah, I mean, it is something that has been practiced in history about, killing your offspring, like either the moment it was born or like, when it was an infant.
Yeah, but you see that there's a difference there because once a child has been born, it's an individual. It's a person though. Okay, I'm not denying that that a fetus or an embryo isn't a human being. Of course, it's a human being, but it's not a person though. It's not capable of surviving on its own.
All right,
It's just part of the woman's body.
so it's not part. It's not able to survive outside of the woman's body. What about premature babies?
Premature babies. I mean, I guess that's a pretty rare exception though. Like, I don't see how that changes.
Well, I would say it would kind of defeat the argument because, I mean, I don't personally see a baby like it's an individual the moment, it's conceived. Like, it's not just they always like to say a clump of cells, and then
I don't use that argument.
sure, I mean, I'm not saying that's your argument, but I'm saying like, oh, that's what it's compared to, like, and then they have like a cutoff point. Usually, people will say like, oh, only within the first trimester. You went to 8 months. I was like, oh fuck.
I mean, I'm trying to be as principled as possible. I mean, I might change my mind to 20 weeks,
Sure.
but I'm trying to be principled because, really at 30 weeks, that's the time where it's basically no different from a child being born. I think that, but I am considering possibly changing to 20 weeks because I know it does sound a little bit extreme, but I'm trying to be as principled as possible.
Principled, like, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean?
Like, I don't want to I'm not saying we can never give exceptions, but like there comes a point where like if you're giving exceptions, then you're not really being principled. Like you're not like sticking to your own logic and reasoning.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, okay. I see what you mean. Well, I would say my principle is that, like, premature babies, they're not the exception. I mean, there's babies. So your argument is, which I've heard before. Oh, like the moment that it's able to, until as long as it has to be sustained by a woman's body, then it's not a person yet. Your specific word is it's a human being, but it's not a person. Which, I mean, I'm not. I guess you can elaborate on that.
Well, I think you could make the case that a zygote is technically a human being, but I don't think you would consider, using birth control like the after, what was it, Plan B or the after pill? I forgot the name, but like any of those type of, pills, you wouldn't consider killing, we wouldn't consider that immoral, would you?
No,
Zygote.
because there's no fertilization there yet. There's no possibility. I mean, Plan B and like those drugs and stuff, they're not actual like aborting a baby. Like, it's just, it is a form of birth control, or it's a contraceptive after the fact.
But it will become.
But it doesn't kill. It doesn't kill an existing baby. What I'm saying is, at the moment of conception, there is a life there, right? Because that's Plan B. It's not there. It doesn't kill an existing pregnancy, but it will prevent a further pregnancy. Basically kills like I could be a little hazy on this, but it kills the live sperm in the woman. That way, like, because you could get pregnant, like, not right away, but
Right.
fertilization could happen after. So it doesn't kill an existing pregnancy. It's just there.
But it's a potential pregnancy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but well, if it's just killing sperm, yeah, it's preventing a potential pregnancy. But like I said, if conception has already happened, like the fertilization is complete, then there's a life there already. So what I'm trying to, let me just, I guess, I just wanted to hear what you had to say, but me personally, I think that, you know, at the end of the day, I am a libertarian, you know, even though I'm conservative, right? Basically what that means is that I believe that everyone should be able to do whatever they want to do, right? um Even if that is, I guess, well, I mean, abortion is a tough one. I mean, my opinion has changed, so I guess I did kind of think like you a little bit, you know, back in the day, but my opinion has kind of changed over time, just with experiences and really thinking about it and just looking more into the, you know, the logistics of abortion. And
Okay, sorry to interrupt, but can I
what's up?
ask you something? Do you
Yeah.
think that there's any time when abortion is a necessary procedure? Like, if let's say the woman's life is at risk, or, you know,
Um, you know, I don't think, I think it's pretty much always unnecessary because, you
even
know,
if the woman's life is at risk?
yeah, it's still unnecessary. And because there's many cases of, you know, there's many cases of, you know, a doctor telling that to a woman, like, oh my God, this baby is, I guess, detrimental to your health and you could die if, you know, if it happens, whatever. At the end of the day, like, I don't know, if a woman wants to do that, I guess she should have the right, maybe, you know, in that specific instance. However, I hear so many cases of women and mothers who are pregnant and are having complications. They don't do that. Like, they'd rather fight through it. Like, they'll show resiliency and
But
want to.
like, in some cases though, like the doctor might say, okay, look, I'm gonna give it straight to you. This child is just not gonna make it. You know, you can try the best you want, but like it's not gonna make it though. However, you have a chance to live. You have a chance to essentially maybe, okay, this fetus, you know, won't, you know, you're not gonna give birth to this baby, but you know, you could live on and give birth to another child. You
That's
know.
that's all fine. That's all fine. You know what? Just for the sake of this
Okay.
argument, I will say cool, right? I've like I said, I've heard, you know, and this is all anecdotal. I don't have the raw data, right? But I'm just pointing this out. You know, I think that I've heard many cases of, yeah, a doctor. I never hear a doctor like, hey, like, you got to kill this baby right now because or else you're gonna die. Like, I've never really heard of cases like that. You might have, right? You know, um, I usually hear like maybe it's a recommendation, and then the woman doesn't want to go through with it. They'd rather not do that, and then, you know, the baby's born fine, and then the woman is fine. She's not dead. You know, it didn't kill her, right? Um, my thing is, I don't really care about that. Usually, when these arguments are made, it's kind of like the rare exceptions are deciding the law, right? You know, it's like it's either what you just brought up, or another thing might be like, oh, like, what if, you know, it's an incest or rape? Like, you know, the dad is like, uh, you know, you hear these fucking horrible cases of, you know, these cruel dads, stepdads, whatever, horrible father figures who like impregnate their daughters and shit and like have, you know, they keep them in the house. And I don't know, like, usually that is horrible, that's tragic, it's fucking like even imagining it, like I see those stories, I don't even want to watch it, right? But it happens, it's a reality, right? Even out of that, um you know, I still believe, like, you know, there was a famous case of this girl who like recently got released, and she had like 3 kids from a kidnapper. It was this guy who like kidnapped this girl when she was a kid. The parents, obviously everyone was devastated, they thought she had died, they thought she, you know, they never saw her again for 30 years. Only 30 years later, you know, she was found with like 3 girls, and those were her daughters.
Wow.
And he had like,
Insane.
yeah, he had kidnapped this, you know, little girl. And, you know, from the fucking moment she was, you know, 12 years old, she was raped in a, you know, this basement, tied up, had 3 kids, you know, like just horrible, horrible, right? And had those kids. And now, and 30 years later, she was found, she was released. And, you know, it was a big like nationwide story. Everyone was like, oh my God, you know, she reunited with her mom. And, you know, she was asked like, oh, like, you know, what about these kids? Like, do you see like the horror of what happened to you, or of that man, of like what he did to you in your children's eyes, or like how do you deal with it? And she was like, you know, I know it's, you know, I can play the video, but you know, basically
Okay.
she
Let
kind
me.
of said, hold on real quick. So she kind of
Okay.
said, like, oh, you know, this is not, you know, I don't feel like, these are my children, and yes, even though they came out of a horrible, tragic scenario, I never, I don't look at them and want them to like disappear. Like she still had love for them. She had a mother's
Okay.
love for the kids, even though they came from, like I said, the most sickest way imaginable, from a fucking kidnapper who kidnapped her when she was 12 years old. Right now, that is one case, and maybe we can't dictate something. I can't point that to you and say, oh, all women are probably going to feel like this. But I do know the importance and what a mother's love means, right?
Sure.
You were gonna say something because I know.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask though that I could probably agree that on certain cases abortion might be wrong, and I just want to expand also very quick that when it comes to like the 30 to 39 weeks, I'm pretty open to having restrictions at that point. Like I'm not saying that like actually no, forget about that. My point is though, why do you want to use government as a tool to discourage people from having abortions? Why not like use societal power?
Exactly right. So I do kind of agree with you when it comes to society. My thing is, as someone who pays taxes, right, which I hate, and pretty much everyone hates, unless you're
Yeah.
unless you're a socialist, right? My thing is, I hate taxes of any form, right? And I don't want, I know we have to pay taxes minimum because I drive on the roads. We all drive on roads. We all use public services. Even if you try to avoid it, like it's all around us. I know I have to pay for, social services, like for the police, paramedics, firefighters, so many things, right? That I do believe exist, even though I ultimately believe that those things could still come from like a libertarian worldview where it's like, volunteers and it's a different society, and
Yeah, like Uber firefighters.
yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things out there, right? What I'm trying to say is I don't want any of my tax money going to a program like Planned Parenthood. They're kind of the mainstayers out there, who use tax money to perform abortions. Where I don't believe any abortion should be free whatsoever. I don't give a fuck of your situation. Like I said, you can put that baby for adoption. There's so many other options out there. I just personally don't think, if you have the money, I guess it's the law. Whatever, you go have your abortion. But I don't want any of my tax money at all to go to, like, one penny, one dime to go towards any abortions at all. And Planned Parenthood was in that state. And I remember when, I don't know if it was related to Trump, but a little bit after Trump got into office, and they cut like all this funding to Planned Parenthood, and everyone was crying, oh my God, they perform so many health services. Great. There's so many other free clinics out there. There's so many other clinics out there that don't perform abortions. I will pay my taxes to them. Planned Parenthood, they do perform, they perform so many abortions. You look, there's numbers out there. They try to minimize it. Go ahead.
No, because I've seen numbers saying that like only 3% of Planned Parenthood's services are abortion, and out of that small 3%, 100% of those abortions are privately funded.
Sure. That is, I've seen that stat out there, and I can, there's some kind of dispute about that. If we can look at like the raw data, I guess I can, bite my tongue, but I have heard that stat disputed. But this is just an argument we're having. My thing is, I think overall, my personal opinion is just that abortion is a net negative to society, right? I believe that, I personally know someone, like I said, and this is anecdotal, right? And I'm not saying that this is hard evidence for you to believe me. I'm just expressing myself, right? I did know a girl in high school who had like multiple abortions, and she was, she was one of those girls who, was out there, if you know what I mean. So she had many fucking, I guess, situations. Like she was, she had, did you hear that, by the way?
Yeah, I've heard the message.
Okay. Fuck, I don't know. It's just so random on stuff that I thought I deleted. So this girl I knew, she was very promiscuous, had multiple abortions. And, later on, she obviously, I used to believe, by the way, that if you have an abortion, like you can't have a baby after. Like that was like lied to me. I guess I didn't know that, or I thought I believe that, but I think that's wrong. Um,
Mhm.
you know, she felt a lot of regret about the abortion she had. She had a baby, and only when she had an actual child to, I guess, to completion, having actually birthed a child, taking care of her child. Now, don't it was only then that she actually kind of stepped back on what she did and regretted it and wish she wouldn't have done it. Women, like men and women, like we're two different creatures. Women, they have more estrogen. They're more emotional. That's not a bad thing. It's just a reality. And there is stats out there that the women who do go through abortions, like they regret, not that they regret it, but they see it they wish they would have done it. They wish they would have, they, I don't want to say regret, but like it has an emotional toll on them. That's what I'm
Right.
trying to
I,
say.
I agree, and I think the term is post something, not PTSD, but it's like post abortion stress or something like that. Like they get some
Sure.
sort of post abortion depression or something like that. I don't remember the correct name, but I think I
It's not even post abortion like thing. It's not just like right after they do it. It's like years later where they have
yeah.
dreams of children, and they're associating that child with maybe an abortion they had. It's like, oh my god, like they have dreams of like kids speaking to them and shit, like saying like, oh, why'd you do this to me, da da da.
Yeah.
And maybe that's, but yes, maybe that's affected by videos they watch and things that they're being told. I don't know, but the point is, whatever that thing is coming from, it
Mhm.
does have a negative emotional toll on women. And I think that
Definitely.
if we didn't have this, it would just be, I would have a better society, because people would actually learn for their mistakes. Like nowadays, there's no excuse. Like there's condoms, there's contraceptions, there's birth control. If you really don't want to get pregnant, like there's ways to not get pregnant. And if you
I
actually,
would agree, and I just want to go off the record that I do agree with you on the point about Planned Parenthood. Even though I think that there's some good services from Planned Parenthood, I think it should be privatized. I don't think the government should subsidize abortions,
yeah,
and
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and even though I'm on the pro-choice side, I just like think if it's their choice, it's their responsibility. I don't think it's a government's role. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. Like there are a lot of progressives out there saying, "Oh, it's none of your goddamn business, but pay for it." That doesn't make any sense to me. You
Yeah, I mean,
know.
it doesn't. Yeah, because it's like, if you want to participate in this barbaric thing, which my thing too is like, I feel like we've like lost um how we view life, or like the importance of life. Just this, even how you like representing to me, like, oh, like we have to make this distinction, like that person is not a human being, but it is a human being inside the mom, but once it comes out, or until it comes out, it's not a person. Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, like once you're born, you have a name, you have a social security, you have sort of essence to like being an individual. You're not just like an extension of the woman's body when you're
I mean, I would argue that you're still an individual in the mom's body. I mean,
no
I mean,
no
go ahead.
no, like you're not an individual because you're just being supported. Like you're basically on life support. It's like someone
So
who's
you,
brain dead. You
Not
know,
really. Not really, because if someone, there's been cases of, if someone tries to like kill a mom, or sometimes a mom is in an accident, she dies. I mean, look at the term C-section, cesarean. It's from which I don't know if it's true or not, from Caesar, who was, his mom was dead, and they cut her open and got him out. Like she didn't die, like he didn't die when she died. You know, yeah, they're being supported by the mom, but there's cases, like I said, even at, not just the origin of the C-section, but cases of maybe the mom dying and the baby's still alive in there. The baby isn't shutting down. It's not like it's a battery pack in the mom, and then if it's unplugged, it dies along with it. Like, no, that is an individual at that point. Would you say? Wouldn't you say?
I mean, it depends like what time. Like I admit, like during the 30 to 39 weeks, it definitely there's no distinction between that and an actual born child though, because it it could live on its own. But anytime before that, it's very hazy. It's like only a few. Yeah, you're saying like, of course, yeah, of course there are exceptions. I'm not denying that. I'm not saying that there aren't cases of whatever premature babies and stuff like that. But for the most part, on average, it's not going to be able to live on its own.
I know so many like people who like, you know, kids who were like born premature, and nowadays they're fine. Like they came out of the womb like 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. And if you're saying it's all the way to 30 weeks, I mean, that's 8 months. Like, so just because they didn't make it out of the mom, or like the mom wanted to abort that child, like I just can't imagine that. Cause I guess there's babies that are born premature even before that. That's my only thing, you know? But you know, that's just my opinion, right? We're here to talk. I'm not here to attack you. Like, we all have how we see it. My thing is just that for the longest time I did think the way you did, and the argument is reframed as like, oh, has to be a woman's choice, and it's like, you know, if you don't have a vagina, you can't talk about this. You know, we're too deep.
Yeah, no. Here's the thing, though. Like, I am sort of on that side, though, but I don't agree with those type of arguments. I hate these sort of intersectional feminist arguments saying that, oh, it's because it's a woman's issue. Men can't say anything about it. It's a woman's issue, sure, but it affects everyone, includes men. So I hate when people like look at it from that perspective. It's a wrong way to look at it. That's a terrible argument, really.
Right. I just want to give a shout out here to Andrew Dale. Hey man, what's up? I appreciate you trying to do a super chat. I'm gonna turn that on soon. If you guys, anyone who's watching enjoys the stream, make sure if you want to help me out, man, just like the stream. Make sure you comment. You know, participate in the chat. I will turn on super chat later and maybe even Streamlabs, but you know, I just want to create content for you guys, and eventually this is something I want to do weekly. So if you're enjoying the show and you want to donate, man, I do appreciate it. And he also said here, so if you're unconscious and unable to support yourself, then can someone kill you?
That's a good question.
Yeah, so if you're unconscious and unable, like if you're asleep, like if someone is brain dead, right? Like that, if that brain dead person, you know, still has, you know, they're still a human being. If like someone like,
okay, well, someone brain dead though, like, is there any chance though that like they can regain when I say brain dead, that means that just the brain just doesn't function, or it only has like very limited functions, and it's to the point where it can't have any thoughts or anything like that. So
yeah, exactly.
Say it's okay to pull the plug.
What was the last thing you said? You cut off.
Yeah, I'd say like if they're brain dead to the point that they can't have any sort of thoughts or any sort of like they could just like very limited functions, then yeah, I say pull the plug if that's the choice you want to make.
But that's a choice, right? Like not at any time. Like if someone the point is no, it's a choice. Like if someone wants to pull the plug, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
If someone breaks into a hospital and I don't know, just fucking crazy guy just decides to kill a brain dead person, that person who did that, he's still culpable of murder. He still killed a person just because they were brain dead and were absent of conscious thought. Who knows? I mean, I'm not too familiar about being brain dead, but let's say if they're brain dead, they're completely just vegetable state, and someone kills them like with a knife, or I don't know, maybe it does pull the plug without the consent of the family. Like, you know, maybe it's, let's say like, that sounds like a fucking Lifetime movie where let's say there's a couple, you know, I remember back in the day, this was actually a real thing. Do you remember like Terry Schiavo? Or you probably were very young.
No, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it was a case. I guess that shows my age, but yeah, it was a case of this this woman who was married, and the husband had like because he was the married husband, he had the right to you know, make the decision on what should happen, right? So you know, and the family disagreed with what he wanted to do, because ultimately he believed in pulling the plug, and he eventually did, and the family tried to sue, and it was like this media, I think this was like 2006 or 2005, like way back in the day, like, you know, more than 10 years ago, right? Right, yeah, so that's a case, right? Let's say in that same case, like let's say the family had their consent or had the right to pull the plug, and they didn't want to do it, and the husband wanted to. And you know, if you're trying to think of in your legal parameters, You know, let's say the husband snuck in the hospital at night and like just pulled the plug. Like I said, that sounds like a fucking Lifetime movie. But let's say he did that and she was brain dead, and she was basically she was a vegetable, and that's why the husband did decide to pull the plug. But let's say the roles were swapped. At that point, he's still culpable of murder because he killed a person, even though that was a vegetable person.
No, I
The,
wouldn't say it was murder though, because I think
murder.
he didn't have the consent of the other person though.
No one consent is when they're killed though. No one, if someone is being stabbed to death, the fuck they're consenting to be stabbed to death. What do you mean?
Yeah, but they're already dead. Like, I'm not saying he shouldn't be charged of a crime or anything like that. Like, of course, yeah, he should go to jail, but it wouldn't be because he killed someone though, because that person is already dead. If they're brain dead, that means that, you know, all they could do is they can't even breathe with that
Okay.
machine.
I mean, I would argue that you know, I would really argue that you know, if you're talking about conscious thought, a fetus at that point has more thoughts than a brain dead person.
Oh, that's debatable.
Sure, that's debatable, right? Yeah, yeah, that's debatable. But I would say that, I mean, I would say that it's true. You know, we have here Nathan Can't Walk. Thanks for commenting, being in the chat, man. The biggest part of abortion that isn't really talked about is the man's choice. Perhaps the pro-choice slogan should read pro-responsibility. Abortion should be legal, privatized, and promoted much differently than it currently is. I think we can all agree abortion is morally reprehensible. Would you agree with that?
I think I could agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I don't want to pressure. If you stand your ground, like if you believe, like, hey, because here's the thing, right? I used to be told, like, hey, abortion is this like thing, like, oh, it's the worst day for a woman. They really don't want to do it, but they have to. But I feel like the numbers don't show that. You know, there's cases of it, and you know, earlier we were talking about like what makes something political or not. The thing is, this thing, yeah, I guess it has been so politicized in the way where a man can't have an opinion about it. And also it is kind of like the woman's rights thing, like, oh, this is the right of a woman, and it's trying to take away, you know, the rights of a woman. And it's so politicized that feminists, like, and just not just feminists, like anybody, like women, some women, not all, they will use it as like a shield, right? Like you have these cases of, you'll see these feminists on like university campuses who have pins of all the abortions they had. Like they want to have more abortions.
Okay,
so
that's like, messed up.
Yeah, that's fucked. That's like, wow. So you're a reprehensible human being. And that's my point of like, we are changing how we see life. Like life is, you know, to so many people, it's viewed as less precious, right? That's how I think it is. You know, like I feel like, yeah, if someone is raped, you know, like I said, I brought up earlier in the stream, this horrible scenario, you know, and a child came out of it. Doesn't mean like you have the right to kill that child. And the librarian UU says here, I don't think it's morally reprehensible. You know, that's fine, man. You can have that opinion. I just think that it is a net negative on society overall. That's what I'm saying. Like, go ahead, have your abortions. I just think, which I mean, I don't want you to have abortion. I don't want people to be aborting children. The numbers, you know, they're trying to prevent it and shit with Planned Parenthood. And you're right. Like, if they want to privatize it, great. Put all your money into it. I don't want no tax money into that shit. All I'm saying is, if you do privatize it, I think it's a net negative overall for our society, how we view children, how we view life. It's a net negative for women. It takes such an emotional toll on a woman. You know, if a woman, let's say, you know, yeah, she's horribly raped. I actually know a case too of a woman who was raped and, you know, got pregnant and, you know, had the baby and, you know, raised the baby as her son. And, you know, let's say that same woman aborted her child, you know, that she was raped. I would argue, and you might not believe it, you might not agree with me, librarian. I just feel like, yeah, it is reprehensible, and it's the woman who chooses to raise that child compared to that woman who has the abortion. Let's say that woman has that abortion, and you know, there's some people based on their emotional level, their maturity, whatever, so many factors, they can't handle that shit, and that affects them the rest of their life. And instead of a woman, yeah, she has a child, she you know, women, their lives change, like men and women, like we change when we have children. Like I don't have children, but I know I want to have children. And there's so many people now too saying, oh, I don't want kids, and you know, whatever. That's a whole nother topic. But I think the woman who raises that child will ultimately be happier instead of having an abortion. And it's great. It's this argument is made of like, oh yeah, well, you know, the woman should have the right to do it. Yeah, maybe you're right. But I think if the woman chose the other thing, I think she would be happier.
Sure.
What do you think?
I would say that like I would prefer a sort of free market approach, which is if people, let's say, want to promote fertility, they want to promote you know, having a family and that sort of stuff, and say, hey, you know, you could have an abortion, but if you decide to have this child, we'll be there, we'll support you all the way. You know, I'm all for that. I'm all for there being a sort of free market of sort of like services for people. You know, like I don't think it's a government role, but I think that like people, like society, can definitely say, hey, you know, you should have a child because all like you'll get all these benefits. You know, like I always think of having a child that, like, sure, there might be more cons than there are pros, but the little pros that there are outweigh all the other cons. You know, so yeah, there definitely is value in having children, and we should do everything we can to promote that. You know.
Sure. Yeah. And here, you know, I want you to get you some responses here too. You know, I want to engage with you guys in the chat, and I appreciate you guys being here with us tonight. I have Ben here. He says, huh? The woman who terminated the pregnancy doesn't lessen their values or abilities. Where's that idea derived from? I have a friend who accidentally got pregnant, even went on birth control at 18 and terminated the pregnancy because no way in hell would she have been happier with the kid. Well, I would disagree with you. You know, how do you know that? You know, back in the day when abortions didn't exist, like when even coat hangers, some people be like, oh yeah, well, we're going to be using coat hangers. Even when coat hangers didn't exist, if a girl was 18 and she got pregnant, oh well. I mean, there was adoption, and there's plenty of families out there who would love to have a kid, who can't have kids. But back in the day, usually those women, you know, would have been, they raised the kid just fine. Yeah, you're a close friend of hers. I'm just saying overall, like you don't know do you know the alternate timeline just because of her raising the kid, just because you know her? I'm saying it's a generality. Maybe you're right. I'm saying in general, back in the day, like people just said, fuck it, I'm pregnant, we got to raise the kid, and it promoted responsibility. I think what's his name here, Nathan Can't Walk, he was talking about responsibility. That's what I think. That's what I think we're losing, is fucking responsibility, because this is a new concept.
I want to read some of the comments. The librarian W says, I won't ever have an abortion, but I don't think it's reprehensible. Don't strawman me, please. And then he says, thank you for thinking for women. How very SJW of you. I just really like that comment. Sorry.
I mean, yeah, I was going to get to him next. The librarian. Yeah, I don't think it's SJW. Yeah, I mean, you know, I hate feminism because it's not promoting the right way for a woman to think. Like they want to be men, and you know, with this whole abortion thing, it's like they're trying to say it's powerful to choose to have an abortion, when it ultimately shows women who do have abortions, they have a big, stronger emotional toll on them. Yeah, there's nothing wrong. Yeah, I care about women out there. I'm an SJW because of that. I'm trying to, yeah, I care about women. If I have a sister who's, you know, 7 years younger than me, I want to create a good world for her. So yeah. And what about the timeline? You engage in the same predicate as SJWs. Okay, dude. Yeah, I mean, you can give an example of what you're trying to say, but and Ben,
I think what he's trying to say is like, oh, Revenge of the Dreamer. All of a sudden, he wants big government to tell people how to run their lives. I don't think that's what you're trying to say.
Right. I'm not trying to. Yeah. SJW is like what? Is like, you know, they're trying to influence society, and I guess I am in a way as well. I'm trying to influence society, but just from my platform.
Positive way.
Yeah, in a positive way. I'm not trying to enforce anything, right? So that's all I'm trying to say. Yeah, I mean, so it's an argument. I'm not going to be here just combating the chat. Like, thank you guys for talking. Like I said, this is just an opinion of mine. If you, you have a close friend who aborted her baby and is doing fine and is happy, and that's good for her. I do speak in generalities. Like, I make generalizations, and we should speak in generalizations sometimes, to where overall I do believe, and I do have the data behind it that shows that abortion overall is a net negative. So that's just where I come from, right? And I think, like I said, back in the day, when women, and Ben also mentioned about, just one last thing. Women who have children also experience dramatic interruptions in their careers and economic power by leaving to raise a kid. Yeah, no shit. Like I said, back in the day, that's what women did, and they had to tough. They didn't have the abortion option. It's very easy. Like I have a friend who, I have like, if we're going to be speaking about experiences, I have a friend who she's she's younger than me. She's a friend of my sister's, and I think she got pregnant at 19, and she came from a very, very strict her family. Well, I say family, but her mom mostly. Her mom was a very educated woman, wanted her daughter to, also be educated and, go to college, graduate, become, had big aspirations. And she still does, right? And she got pregnant, and her mom literally mentioned, like, hey, like, we're gonna go get this abortion, like, we got to keep going, like, you got to go to school, da da da. And she chose to keep the baby, and now the baby, she's a beautiful, young girl. She's still going to college, and I mean, things are harder. Yeah, if you have a kid, I think it's shown that, on average, until you reach 18, people will spend like $1 million at least to raise that child over time. And yeah, it is a financial burden, and it's, an economic thing. And, then maybe the woman's career aspirations has to take a hold, but that's where responsibility came in. She had to take the responsibility of what she did. She didn't want to get an abortion. And she did say that, she's happier. Of course she didn't have an abortion. Now that she has a 1-year-old daughter, I think older than 1 year old. She's obviously like, wow, like, good thing I didn't have an abortion, right? And that's one case, and your friend could be another case, right? I'm just saying these are generalities. Everyone has a story, and I'm just saying, great, don't have abortions under my dollar. And if you do, I'm just saying you shouldn't do it. That's all I'm saying. You shouldn't do it. But it's America. We're allowed to do what we want. But yeah, no government money into it at all. That's it. I don't think that's a tough thing. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, so, yeah. I don't want to talk about this off stream, but what are some closing thoughts of yours?
Well, can you hear me there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No, I just think that this discussion has been very productive, though.
Yeah.
And that I'm glad to see that, at least at some point, we do sort of agree on something. At least we do argue this from a similar perspective. We're both arguing from the whole, we don't think government should be involved in our lives that much. I still disagree with you, but that's fine. I don't think of you less of you because of that, and I hope.
Of course. Yeah, of course, man. Likewise. There was one final thing that I had pulled up, but I guess in this conversation, I forgot to bring it up, as all these conversations go. But you know who Margaret Sanger is, right?
I think I've heard of her.
So Margaret Sanger.
Yeah, wait. She founded Planned Parenthood, of course.
Of course, she founded Planned Parenthood, right? So I found some quotes of her. A lot of people don't really know, like, some things she really said and how she viewed human life, right? And I can read these and people be like, oh, you got to look into the context. I did look into the context, and really, when I read these, just think about what could be said before and what could be said after. What kind of context would make this seem like she didn't really mean exactly what I'm about to read, right? So some of the things she said, some quotes from interviews she had. She said, I'm just going to read a few. There's this list of like 21. I'm just going to read a few. For my view, I believe there should be no more babies. Another quote she said, and like I said, I don't know the context from that, but that's like something
I would like to see more context. I mean, I'm not going to deny Margaret Sanger had a lot of extreme views. A lot of things like I would find abhorrent, but I think that specific one deserves a little bit of context. I'm pretty sure like curfew like was still came from a messed up perspective, but I don't know. Just yeah, whatever. Keep reading.
I'll keep reading it. But one last thing for Ben. That's a really shitty response to that because you and I both know neither are women happier with kids or are women happier with careers are quantifiable. I would disagree. I mean, I would say that I don't think it's not it's not mutually exclusive. If someone really wants to go to college and have a career, they can do that and still have a kid. In fact, this is another, I guess, personal thing, but I know a woman who, she went to college, she, graduated and became a psychologist and had a very tough job, very long hours, but she had her career. She did what she wanted to do. And she didn't get pregnant earlier. She actually finished what she wanted to do. She had a kid and she had a lot of struggles because she had a baby. I think she was like, this person I'm thinking about, she was like 30 something years old, right? Or maybe like 30, very early 30s, obviously not late 30s, but early 30s. She had a kid and she had very major emotional issues and tough time where she tried to go part-time in her job because she wanted to be home taking care of her child, even though she had a nanny taking care of it. It's not just this black and white thing. Like, women, no matter what their jobs are, no matter how much money they make, no matter how successful they try to be or whatever they want to be, it is shown, I can show you the studies, Ben. It is shown that women, like when they have the kid, they want to be home. They want to take care of their kid. And I'm not saying, it's like I said, your thing is, women have career, are they going to have careers? Are they going to have women, are they going to be happy with careers? Or are they going to be happy with babies? It's not mutually exclusive. And women, like, they enjoy being mothers. Like, this is the natural thing for women. Like I said, I'm a traditional person. Some views, like, I think people don't really agree with. That's fine. But that's my response to that, Ben. And like I said, this is just us kind of bullshitting in the chat. It's no love lost. Like I said, it's all good, man. I appreciate.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the guy to come on and say that all pro-choice people should have been aborted. Sadly, we haven't seen that comment yet. But my response is that I would just look at it from an individual basis. So, and like I would probably somewhat agree that like most women would probably be happier if they were to have a child. But I don't think that could apply to every single woman, every single female. Like some
of course,
women can avoid both. Women can only do one of them.
Of course, but it's okay just because every single woman like wouldn't want that. We can still say that yes, most women are going to be happier staying home with a kid. Like there's women who, like, if they don't have kids by, there's a reason they have it. They call a biological clock on a woman, even if their whole life they didn't want to have kids, and it's like something that was ingrained in their brain or something. They have depression if they go through like a menopause and didn't have kids. Like, they want to fucking be moms overall. Yes, yeah. Not all women, but yes, we can speak in that generality, and we have the data to back that up, right? And these are pretty controversial topics and touchy topics, but I appreciate, guys, the engagement in the chat. If any of you guys actually ever want to jump on with me, talk about something, if I'm talking about this, and I don't really like talking about this too much, like, it's not my thing, but if you're watching this, like, hey man, I want to talk about abortion with you, reach out to me on Twitter. We'll talk about it, or comment on this stream after it goes, after it posts. That's what I want. I want to talk. Like, it's all good to talk, right? So, anything else about abortion before we continue? Sorry.
Let me just see if there's anything interesting in the comments. So otherwise, I think we can just move on to something else. What is this? The Fanch, I think that's how you pronounce it. Simon Veil, who presented the law for abortion in 1975, did regret what become of that. I assume was originally an emergency option. Now it's the main option promoted by media and politics. And then Ben says, cool that she was wealthy enough to pay for a nanny. All right.
Yeah. So the Fanch is saying they presented a law of abortion in France in 1975. So I think that was a little later than United States. I don't know when Roe v. Wade went into United States. I either six.
Roe v. Wade was around 1971, 1972, like in
That,
the early 70s.
are you like far away from your mic? Because you were sounding a little clear before. Just come up. Just bring it up.
Oh,
There you go.
yeah. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, yeah. So, he said here they presented the law in France. He's probably French, or maybe maybe lived in France. Maybe that's why he's bringing it up. They did regret what became of what was originally an emergency option, and now it's the main option by media and politics. I would kind of agree with that. Like I said, I'm fucking disgusted when I see any abortion related commercials, unless it's promoting not to have it, and it is. I feel like promoted.
Wait,
Like I said,
I don't think I've ever seen an abortion.
I think there was something out there, like it's not many, but there was either one or two that I think I remember watching that. Like I said, I was like, why is this on my TV, right? If someone wants to bring that up in the chat or something, or just reference it, that'd be cool. But it's not a big deal. But ultimately, yeah, it is promoted. Like I said, you have these feminists, in the universities, basically influencing young women going to those schools and classes, having pins of all the abortions they had on their shirt. And it's like this, it's so politicized that it's this empowerment thing. Like, look at all the abortions I had. And it's like, yeah, you're a sick fuck. Like, you think you're powerful, or like you're like such you're such a woman because you can have abortions. Like, fuck you. Like, yeah, that's going to have a real bad emotional toll on you when you get older. Just know that. Right. But that's my thing, guys. I appreciate you commenting about that. I wanted to, usually the way I want to set up these streams is we'll have like a topic like this, maybe talk about it, bullshit about it. I'll engage with you guys, right? And then we'll move on to some other things, some current events that I just want to touch upon. So let's see here, if I can share my screen. I guess we can do this first. So CNN polls just the first current event here. CNN polls the public on what they think about Kanye West. So that is something that I kind of wanted to make a video about earlier when this was happening, but then I kind of paused and wanted to wait and see, because the thing with Kanye West is that, if you guys don't know, if you're into hip hop, if you're not into hip hop, he's, for the past year, he's kind of went like, he's into fashion. He's in so many lanes. Of course, he had the Yeezy shoes, which was, pretty successful. I love Kanye West. I think he's a genius. What he's done, whether you hate him or love him, he does seem crazy sometimes, but I think people, for people to do great things, they have to be crazy, right? And he's married to the fucking Kardashian queen, the social media queen, and that there's something weird about that family. They're definitely ballers. Like, whenever people are shitting on the Kardashians and Kylie Jenner and stuff like that, it's like, you do understand that they're on the top. Like, however you agree or disagree of how they did it, like, they get, Kylie Jenner, I think, makes like millions of dollars every single Instagram post she does. Like, they literally just they can promote anything, and they became rich off of it, and they have the show, and oh my God. But it is a fucked up family, I think. But you can't shit on them. You can't shit on their hustle. But I found this interesting article because it said here there was a CNN political poll, which asked, which wanted to have the response about Kanye West's outburst. The main thing, everyone seemed to latched on the thing of him supporting President Trump, wearing the MAGA hat. And of course, everyone had that soundbite of him saying like, 400 years of slavery for Black people, that sounds like a choice, right? And everyone was like, oh my God, like, just freaking out. So they had a CNN poll that said here, 17% of Americans have heard a great deal about Kanye's comments. 19% have heard a good amount, 36% a little bit, and 25% nothing at all. Among African Americans, 40% have heard a great deal and only 12% nothing at all. 39% of Americans who have heard Kanye's comments about politics and slavery think he really believes what he's saying. 52% think he's seeking publicity, and the rest are unsure. 52% think he's seeking publicity, and that's kind of why I backed off, because Kanye West, I mean, you gotta, if you go back as someone who actually, I do enjoy his music, like, back in the day I did listen to his albums when they were coming out. He did, I think, starting with like his third album, like every single album he would do some crazy shit to like, and it was just to promote his album, and that's genius. Like, you know any publicity
It
is
is.
good. Yeah, any publicity is good. Bad publicity, good publicity. What were you gonna say, Classy Liberal?
No, I'm just saying I agree with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a bad publicity, good publicity. It's good either way. And I thought he's a genius of that. The whole Taylor Swift thing he did back in the day where he interrupted her on stage. All of it was to promote his album, and
It was an asshole move, but it worked.
yeah. I mean, it was an asshole move, but I think he is an asshole, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's why he maybe aligns with Trump, because Trump is kind of an asshole, but he's an asshole that gets shit done, and he's kind of like that baller figure that and that's what's crazy about this thing is that finally I feel like he's the first one who's like really stepping out and really just saying what he believes. And there's a video you can watch on YouTube of all these black celebrities, entrepreneurs like Ice Cube, Shaquille O'Neal, I think even like 50 Cent, like even people who now, of course, cry racism. Oh my God, they want to hurt black people. They were supporting him back in the day before he ran for president, because he's like, yeah, Donald Trump is he's a boss. Like, he's like a modern day John Gotti or some shit. He's running New York. He's a baller, right? And
I mean, he's basically a god at this point.
He's not a god. No, don't say that. But he exemplifies that figure in in hip hop, in hip hop culture, which is of like, just this baller, like just, Scarface. Like so many rappers, like, if you've seen that movie Scarface, like, I have a fucking Scarface mural in my living room. Like, it's just that figure, like that machismo figure. And that's what Trump was. And still is, obviously. And that's why I think, like, even in the TMZ thing, Kanye West was like, Trump is my boy, like, he's like, this is my dude. Like, we think on the same level. And, and that's why they'll call Kanye West stupid and Donald Trump stupid. It's like, you do realize these guys are like entrepreneurs and own several businesses, and they're fucking balling out of this world. Everyone's trying to play this game of an America of money and businesses, and they're running it. So if they're stupid and crazy, I guess I want to be stupid and crazy, right? So yeah, overall, it says here, Kanye is viewed favorably by 23% of the public and unfavorably by 52%. 40% of Trump supporters view Kanye favorably, whereas only 7% of those disapproving of the president give Ye the thumbs up. These numbers suggest West's 2024 presidential campaign is getting off to a bad start. So yeah, I mean, I've been talking for a while. So do you have a opinion about that?
It's just that Kanye West is just one of these crazy characters out there. I honestly don't know what his real views are, but I don't think like we should look at Kanye West as like, oh, this is what we should all believe, or whatever he says is just right. But I think it is interesting to see like someone who's like this celebrity that's loved by so many people is finally saying things that may not always go with the, I guess you could say, the sort of celebrity status quo. Like the status quo of celebrities nowadays is to be very progressive, very anti-Trump, very pro-Hillary, sometimes pro-Sanders, uh feminist, and like sometimes a lot of the more conservative celebrities are sort of like outed, like they're very isolated. It's hard to find a celebrity that isn't a crazy anti-Trump, whatever regressive out there. And I'm not even for Trump or anything like that. Like I don't support Trump, but I just think that like the way people approach the whole issue, especially the way celebrities do, is very like, oh, he's a racist, he's this, he's that, rather than actually like saying, oh, what's wrong with his policies. So personally, I would prefer that like Kanye West would have talked about someone else, because I'm just not a fan of Candace Owens. Like you've heard about the whole doxing thing, the whole with what was it, social autopsy?
Yeah, I mean, everyone, Candace Owens, I follow her on Twitter, and I agree with a lot of what she says. And I think with the whole social autopsy, I can't fucking say autopsy. I think with that whole thing of the doxing website, you know, that's kind of like water under the bridge. Even I don't think it was like this nefarious thing. Like everyone kind of went against her, and I kind of jumped on the train a little bit. I didn't make a video about it, but you know, I just was kind of like following on Twitter, social media. Everyone followed on this hate train on social media, like, and they try to treat it like this nefarious thing or this Machiavellian thing that she was out there trying to fucking dox people of bullying. I think it was kind of like, you know, it was kind of maybe around the time that she was changing her political beliefs or something, and you know, they say like, oh, she became a conservative overnight and she's doing this for the money. I don't believe that. Like when you see her, when you follow people, like people, they're not shills for the fuck of it. Like it's just not, it's not possible. It's not realistic to me. And I do believe most of what she says, and she's saying, and she's true. That's why, you know, Kanye West pretty much broke the internet when she said, I like the way Candace Owens thinks, because she is she's a black woman who's basically saying like, hey, black people, we're following the Democrats. They haven't done shit for us. You know, we need to have more conservative values, which in my opinion, yeah, conservative values is going to solve most problems people have when it comes to family structure, having a mom and a dad in the household. Like that's the only problem with, the black community.
You don't think more welfare is going to solve it?
Fuck no. Yeah, I know you're kidding, but yeah, and that's the argument too with people on the left and Democrats and shit. It's always about more money, more funding, and that's not always the issue. That's not always how you solve it. Like you solve it in the house, you solve it with culture, and that's what this is something that has been talked to death about. But it all started when what's his name, Lyndon B. Johnson started the welfare program, and black women were encouraged to kick their man out because they would get money. They would get money from the government. Maybe if that wasn't there, then it's all about responsibility, right? Going back to responsibility, going back to abortion, rather. I can't talk. But going back to abortion, it's about responsibility. If those people, they knew that, yeah, staying together, having a family structure for their kids, that is what it's gonna push them into the future, and it's going to be beneficial for the black community or any community. And that's what has failed the black community, is the lack of the family structure. And I'm going to respond real quick here to Ben, and I want you to respond after too, because I like his engagement here. I appreciate you commenting, man. He says here, ask any poor person what they need. They're going to tell you money for bills. I agree. It's the thing is, just giving money isn't going to solve the issue. I mean, look at socialist countries, right? They try to, people want to redistribute the wealth, and you have these black extremists who believe in reparations, and if money would solve everything. No, money would not solve everything, as much as it is more. It's not as simplistic as that, and he's quoting.
Some of them aren't even interested on fixing the problems. They just think they deserve it because of their skin color. They don't even care if it's going to solve their problems.
Even beyond that, well, it's not because of their skin color. It's because, I'm an ancestor of a slave.
Yeah, there's skin color.
I need money, right? It's the dumbest thing you've ever heard, right? And he's quoting me, and he says, "Gee, I wish I had responsibility, so I wasn't so damn poor." Exactly. Yeah, if you had more responsibility, you weren't poor. That is the truth. It starts with the family. It starts with what culture are people coming from. And that's what's going backwards with our society. We're fucking babying our society. And more funding is babying, and that doesn't solve problems. But so yeah, I just wanted to react to this. I think I think it was funny. Or what were you gonna say to my response to those comments? By the way, I forgot.
No, I was just gonna say that, yeah, look, I have some issues with Candace Owens, but I don't like the way she's being portrayed in the media right now, because she's anti-Black Lives Matter, or because she goes against the leftist status quo. Now she's being labeled as far right, or all these ridiculous labels, and it's just that.
I mean, she is far right.
Far right,
and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
she's not far right. Being a Trump supporter that's more of centric right, or just generally right. Far right would be, you don't think far right? That's more like, National Socialism.
No.
Not. Uh,
No, I'm far right. I believe in. I mean, I don't want to say I fully believe in the right's talking points, but if you're talking about conservatism and if you're talking about traditionalism, I believe in most of those things, and I would be considered far right. Far right isn't. Yeah, they brainwash people to believe that if you're far right, you're a fucking racist, you're a Nazi. No, we're not fucking racist. We just believe in, we don't believe in the bigotry of low expectations. We believe black people, their solution isn't fucking money. It isn't more welfare, isn't it? It's not funding, it's not reparations. It's about responsibility in the home. And that's what Candace Owens preaches. That's
yeah,
what
but Dreamer, when I'm talking about far right, I'm talking about like really extreme people, like
that's
okay, maybe like okay, look, we have like two types of far right. We have like the libertarian far right, which is like anarcho-capitalist and libertarians, and I'm fine with that. But then we also have like the authoritarian far right, which is like actual fascists and like Nazis, neo Nazis, and like neo reactionaries, the Pinochet type people, you know.
right. That's not far right. I mean, those people who are alt right, right, who are no national nationalists who want like in a white ethno state. They're, to me, I view them on the left. They're fucking
Uh,
on the left, in my opinion, because they're the ones focusing on race, and it's the same shit the left parries. Like, oh, our problems are because of this people, and we need our own shit. I like I said, I believe in my beliefs is that if we're in America. When I'm talking like we're Americans, we're talking about in America. America doesn't matter what color you are. It didn't matter for what color I was. It didn't matter that I was an immigrant from Brazil. I can achieve whatever the fuck I want if I put my mind to it. And if I want to do it, it has nothing to do with my skin color. And that's what I preach. That's what I believe. And I do think Candace Owens pushes the same thing on her Twitter. And that's why Kanye said, I like the way Candace Owens thinks. And after he said that, like I've been following his Twitter, seeing his thing, everyone's flipping their shit. I love it. I just love seeing all these people react. And he's just saying things like, we need to be free thinkers. We need to be able to think for ourselves. And that's something unique to the Black community. I would say even sometimes in the Hispanic community, where if you don't have a certain belief, if you don't have a certain point, you are, you're a coon, you're an Uncle Tom, you're not an actual Latino, you're not an actual Black person.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That like they're labeling her as this Uncle Tom and all these really
Yeah.
racist remarks.
Yeah, and that's what he's trying to say. He's like, guys, I'm trying to think differently. Like, aren't we allowed to think differently? Just because like Black people aren't a monolith. Like we're all allowed to believe in different things. Like, just because if you're a certain racial group, doesn't mean they're all gonna believe the same shit. And I think that's all he was trying to say. And just because of that, people have problems, right? So yeah. And that's what's going on. But let's see here. They mentioned his 2024 presidential campaign is getting off to a bad start. I personally think, dude, with Trump, I feel like with Trump, it was a turning point in history. And
Definitely.
it's like we are gonna, like, I remember when that happened, it was like, I don't know if I've said this on a video or a stream before, but have you ever seen Back to the Future?
Of course, yeah.
You've seen Back to the Future too?
Of course, I've seen all of them.
Well, I don't know. It's a 1985, so I mean, I know it's a
Yeah,
big,
but it's like one of those classic movies that like everyone watches at some point. So yeah, I like, and I'd say like Back to the Future is definitely one of the best movies out there. But go on.
yeah. I mean, if anyone's watching and hasn't seen Back to the Future, it's a fucking awesome movie. The second one's okay, and the third one is whatever. If you just watch the first one, I think you'd be satisfied. But in the second movie, remember, there's a scene in the second movie where they basically have a time machine, and I'm kind of going to try to succinctly explain it to the audience, just for the few people who haven't seen the movie, but I think most people watching probably have seen it, where they have the time machine and the villain, they're from 1985, they go to 2015 to try to change something in the future because it's going to have this repercussion. And the villain of the movie, from the first movie, who was from 1955, he sneaks in the time machine, goes back to 1955, changes history, and gives his younger self like a sports almanac that basically tells him the future, and he was able to make money by that, by gambling, and he knew the right answers every time. And when Marty McFly and Doc go back to 1985, they didn't know the villain Biff of the movie had stolen the time machine and changed the past. So when they went back, it was an alternate reality where, you know, Marty goes home, the main character Marty McFly, and you know, it's not his house anymore. And now Biff, who is this, like, you know, the villain of the first movie, he's basically become like this casino, you know, basically a real life Donald Trump taken to the extreme, like sarcastically, right? And I felt like after Donald Trump was elected, I felt like I was Marty McFly in like an alternate timeline. Like seriously, I just felt like, what the fuck did we do? Like the whole time for the election, because I wasn't a Trump supporter.
I don't know if it's coming from my side, but you cut off for a sec.
Okay, what was the last thing you heard?
You're about to say what the, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, what the hell is going on? Like, I felt like it was kind of like weird. I wasn't a Trump supporter either, but it just felt like, holy shit, like this is crazy, right? So yeah, you know, I feel like this is a turning point. Like I literally believe, like I'm predicting, like The Rock is going to be our president in the future. Like he's already mentioned that he's going to run. That dude is so charismatic, and it's kind of strange, The Rock, like how popular he is. Like he can be in any movie. And like Jumanji, I thought was going to be like a bomb, and that movie like outgrossed like Spider-Man and like superhero movies, and a lot of it had to do with The Rock, Kevin Hart too, but mostly The Rock, because you know, The Rock, like 2 weeks later, he has a movie about, you know, there's literally a movie in the summer coming out called Skyscraper. It's about him jumping off a skyscraper. It's like this action movie. Reminds me of Die Hard. You know, he's going to make that movie, and it's going to make millions too. It's kind of crazy how successful he is. You know, and it has a lot to do with just how charismatic he is. I feel like he just puts his name on the ballot, he will win the election just because of his personality. And I feel like that is what's coming very soon. Yeah, it probably will be after Trump, but we're going to fucking start seeing celebrities in the White House, man, with social media. Like our landscape is changing so much, right? And unless you had some final thoughts on this, I wanted to get your reaction to this. I kind of went down this rabbit hole. Have you heard of Lil Tay?
Of course I've heard of her. Yeah.
So yeah, if you guys don't know who Lil Tay is, we're going to react to some videos here that are fucking, like, it's almost like I can't even believe this shit's real. So let's take a look here. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, let's look at this. So Lil Tay is a 9-year-old, and she uploads these kind of videos here.
Yeah. Flexing and all y'all broke ass haters. I got a $350,000 chain. Y'all haven't seen this in your lives. I'm richer than all y'all broke ass haters. Y'all grown ass men hating on me because y'all broke and jealous. Y'all rappers out here, I ain't even started rapping yet, but I'm richer than you, bitch.
So yeah, that was interesting. And this is all she does. Like this is
yeah, she kind of just came out of nowhere, just like, oh look, I'm Lil Tay and I have all this money and stuff. Like I never heard of her before.
Yeah, but it's like a trend, and I was gonna elaborate more on this, or I will elaborate more on this. But there's this new trend of like innocent looking white girls. Like you had like the Catch Me Outside girl. There's that girl like Whoa Vicky. And it's like these like white chicks acting ghetto, you know, I don't know if that's the right word, acting like hood and throwing money and like in cars and shit. And it's like I heard the backstory of Lil Tay is that she's like 9 years old, and her mom is the one who films these videos, and her mom is like a real estate person, broker, and has access to like these mansions and shit. And that's where it started, like filming her inside these mansions of.
And I imagine like she can just like rent the cars from like whatever,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, you can rent these cars, and I just feel like it's hilarious. Like they're making this character that obviously has an appeal. Like this video I'm about to play 3,500,000 views. So obviously there's an appeal by some people, right? And I just found this interesting. Let's take a quick look at some more of these.
You already know what it is. Lil Tay just got a brand new Jaguar. This car cost me $130,000, bitch.
Bitch.
No grown-ass man hating on me, but that ain't changing nothing. I'm still gonna be rich. I'm the youngest flex of the century, bitch, and I'm only 9 years old.
What the fuck am I watching?
You know, I'm surprised the intersectional feminists haven't like already called her out for like cultural appropriation.
Yeah, that is some fucking culture appropriation. You know, how they like to call it. But yeah, man, this is fucking crazy. Like I said, I went down this rabbit hole of like different videos that
Sorry, like you're breaking apart. Maybe it's from my side.
No.
Give me a sec.
No, I'm good. I think it's because of the screen share, but I think it should be good now. Just cut me off if you don't hear it. But yeah,
Because it's
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just give me a sec. Like I don't know. It's kind of slow right now.
Let me just, I'm just gonna get off camera real quick. Then I think that's what it is. All right. Yeah, man. So it's crazy. Just what, you know, it's like almost a character, right? So the mom is like filming the videos and posting this, and like I said, it has some sort of appeal because you're having, you know, all the success on Instagram. There's the Whoa Vicky. There's the Cash Me Outside girl. Why is there so much appeal from this?
Can you still hear me there?
I can hear you. What did you hear? What I said? Hey, did you hear?
Give me minutes because I'm on my side. Like, I heard what you said, but like, give me a few minutes. I'll be back. I'm just having some technical difficulties.
All right, I'm just gonna react to some.
I'm having some technical difficulties. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just from my side. It's getting really crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna be off camera. That's usually what it is. So just chill. You don't leave the call because then that just messes it up. Just give it a second. But yeah, man, I just went down this rabbit hole of watching these videos. It's pretty amazing, and it's hilarious too because like you said, it kind of came out of nowhere, and there's definitely an appeal about it. Like people are watching it, reacting to it. It's hilarious, but what's your overall thoughts about it?
Well, for one, it's obvious that like, what's interesting because like I think like Daniel Bergoli with the Catch Me actually is sort of messed up, and she actually does act like that in real life. But then people like Whoa Vicky and Lil, you know, they're trolls. You know, they're just characters. They don't really act like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if the mom actually, if this was just like Lil Tay's mother's idea. Like,
I don't think so.
You know,
I don't think so. I would say they're on the same level as the Cash Me Outside girl because
no, but like they're characters though. Like I don't think like they're actually real.
I mean, they probably do act like that in real life too. Like to go to that level. Yeah, I mean, Whoa Vicky too they all act. You know, it's not just like a thing. It's not like a, you know, it's what they're actually doing. But yeah, I mean, it's fucking crazy, and it feels like there's so many there's so many like people wanting to follow that too. I think there's gonna be like this huge underbelly and new like kind of trend of like parents like putting this on their kids and like wanting their kids, like little girls and stuff, to act like this, and they'll rent out mansions and shit, rent out cars just to show them. It's pretty hilarious, but yeah, the Fanch here who he did respond saying he's from France. Shout out to you, man. Shout out from France for you watching from France, man. I think that's awesome. He said her mom is a sick woman, obviously, poor kid. Yeah, man. There's a lot of, you know, just because you know, even though this is a new thing, I mean, the exploitation of kids has always been out there with parents, you know.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah. So, you know, I feel bad for her too, you know, and it's promoting more. It's promoting more like people wanting to act like them. Like I was scrolling through World Star, and there's like this video of another like young Asian chick, and she's upped. I'll actually show it. So I'm gonna screen share real quick. So now you have people trying to copy the wave of kind of like the you know, the crazy person, like the Catch Me Outside shit. And this is this chick right here. This is this Asian chick.
Yeah, of course she made a song. I gotta see the beat is nice.
So the beat, but I'm not in the race. I don't need a race, cause I got that cake, got that money. Babby put in work, he put me in the place. Now it's my turn, I put it in their face. So the beat, but I'm not in the race. I don't need a race, cause I got that cake, got that money. Babby put in work, he put me in the place. Now it's my turn, I put it in their face. I'm 11 now in the 6th grade. Just getting smart and not a lot of things have changed. School first, and you know I'm getting A's. On my spare time, I'm flying state to state. I'm in Cali, see me backstage, hanging out with Drake. OVO, something like my daddy, pull up in the race. You talking mills, I just put you in the safe. Got no time for boys, me and money got a date. All the fam call me Vanna, all the fans call me Ling Ling. Popping on the gram for the camera, I do my thing. Me and Lil Jimmy.
All right, so that's enough. I'm gonna turn my camera back on to see if it's better, but yeah, that's
This is like Jake Paul level cringe.
yeah. Jake Paul was actually in one of Lil Tay's videos too. Like
Of course he was.
Did you didn't see that one?
No, I haven't seen that one.
All right, I'll show you real quick. I'll show the audience. Jake Paul too is another. He just follows every, you know, what's the hot thing.
I just bought a Lamborghini. Y'all bitches can't afford this shit, okay? I'm only 9 years old, but I'm the youngest flex of the century. Me and my boy Jake Paul out there flexing on these broke ass haters. Tell what's up, Jake. You guys bought a Lambo. I'm the youngest flex of the century. I'm only 9 years old. What are y'all doing with your lives? Y'all ain't hating on me? Y'all broke and jealous.
What the fuck is going on, dude?
You know, I'm wondering what's with Jake Paul. Like he's dressed like a 1980s computer engineer or something like that. I don't know. Like a software.
He was going for like that kind of hipster look in that thing, but what's going on, man? Why is this happening? Why are we? What, you know, what's going on?
Maybe the alt-right has a point though. Maybe you know. I'm sorry.
Alt-right has a point.
No.
What point do they have?
No, I'm just saying like they like to. I mean, I'm not saying like I agree with this, but like they like to say that like, you know, the whole like Western civilization is falling, and that basically we're like promoting degeneracy. And maybe there is some truth to that. Of course, their solution is, you know, the ethno state, which I think it's ridiculous. But oh my god, like sometimes when I watch videos like this, it just makes me question humanity. You know, I honestly think that humanity's moving forward, right, with science, technology. But like when I look at this, I'm like, we're really like that far off. You know, 50 years ago, like you know, back in the good old days.
Oh, the good.
There was always stupid people, but I'm just saying like, why?
Yeah, man. I'm puzzled as well, and I think it's hilarious, but it is what it is, I guess. Yeah, I just wanted to get your reaction to that, but I think, you know, we've been streaming for a couple about an hour and a half, so usually we want to stick it to around that time for the beginning, guys. You know, maybe later we'll start doing some little longer streams, but usually that's kind of like the sweet spot for right now. So yeah, thank you guys for participating in the chat. I do really appreciate it. If anyone's watching, wants to reach out, wants to talk about some of the things we talked about or some random shit, like whatever, man, just hit me up on Twitter. Classy Liberal, his information is in the description as well if you want to talk to him as well. Or, you know, we're going to be doing some kind of collaborations here, hopefully on a weekly basis. You know, maybe with a podcast starting soon as well. And, you know, it's going to be open to the audience. So if, you know, all the people I engage with, if you guys want to come on the show, if you want to talk about something, we're definitely going to encourage that. I appreciate you guys watching us tonight and giving us your time on your cell phone or wherever you are watching this. So any final words, Classy Liberal?
No, I just think it's been a good talk. I like a little discussion earlier about abortion. You know, we disagree, but we still get along, and you know, it's been good.
Yeah, would you agree that I get maybe those girls, maybe like Lil Tay and like those rappers and shit, maybe they should have been aborted?
I don't want to say that, but let's just say that that's an option for them. I agree that was an option for them. That the option was there.
I have a little hope for humanity. Yes, even though that's a horrible thing those kids are doing. They are kids. That was just a joke. Obviously, I don't believe they should have been aborted. That's just a little dark humor there. But thank you guys for watching. Please stay tuned. There's some more stuff coming, I promise. Thank you. Appreciate it again for watching, and have a great night. Peace out.